I'm Holly, and with my sister Heather, you're listening to Haunted Family Podcast, a semi-weekly podcast about the paranormal, unsolved mysteries, and even some true crime.
And screwing up a whole lot.
You guys don't know this, but we just had about 6 takes on just that intro that I do every single week that we record.
So this topic is very timely.
Yes, it is. And also a little bit local-ish with
some of y'all may remember, I'm not even going to do the whole coy, let's play coy, and they don't know who we're talking about. Some of y'all may remember just a few weeks ago that this serial killer was actually put to death in Florida. They finally got around to executing Bobby Joe Long after, 34 years?
Yeah, something like that.
And a lot of people in our area was just shocked and horrified because they realized that he was from our area. What? Yeah. Bobby Joe Long was originally from this small little nothing speck of a town called Canova, which sits right at the confluence of the Big Sandy and what's the other river, Holly?
Why are you asking me geography questions?
I was literally there the other day, but I had a bout of vertigo today, and my brain gets a little foggy after vertigo. So yes, I'm having to Google this. Okay, yeah, sorry. I don't know why I couldn't remember the Ohio River.
Oh yes, the Ohio River.
It sits right at the confluence of the Ohio and the Big Sandy River. It's right at the tri-state region of Kentucky, Ohio, and West Virginia. And that's actually how it got its name. Kentucky, Ohio, West Virginia. Yeah, Canova. Very small town, but it's a very quaint town.
Right.
Like I said, I'll go there quite often because when you're in the Ashland, Catlettsburg area, if you take a wrong turn, you can be over the bridge in another state.
Oh God, you have no idea how many times I have done that, traveling for work and been just jamming to the radio, and then I look up and I'm literally in West Virginia, and there's nowhere to turn around. Once you get past Ashland and you end up in West Virginia, you just have to go.
Yeah. He moved from Ashland as a small child. I think he was less than 10.
Yeah.
I think I actually read that he was about 5 when he moved. And his mom moved him to the Tampa Bay area of Florida. And she got a job working as a cocktail waitress, which didn't really settle well with Bobby Joe Long in his, younger years of, putting together, women and sexuality, and, he did not want to see his mom as a sexual person, and she would bring men home.
Yeah, he and his mom had a weird, Psycho the movie kind of relationship where they slept together. It was a 1-bedroom apartment, but they shared a bed even until he was 12 or 13 years old. So whenever she would bring guys home, she was literally bringing guys home to their bedroom.
Yeah. He was also born with Klinefelter syndrome, which basically means he was born with an extra chromosome, which caused several different abnormalities.
One of those was prevalent breasts.
Yeah, breasts. He had to have several surgeries to correct this, but being a young child, being a boy with breasts, left its mark on him.
Yeah, he got bullied a lot.
And then you hit he was also had a serious head injury as a child when he was hit by a car.
Actually, he had several head injuries.
Yeah. So you will hear if you read any books from forensic psychologists or criminologists about him or watch documentaries about him, they will bring these points up, not to excuse what he did, but to explain some of his thought process. Because, yeah, he even said that he had no idea what compelled him. And really, it was a melting pot of a whole lot of things in childhood.
Yeah, he actually got married.
To his childhood sweetheart.
Yeah, they got married in 1974. And she said that he was always like rude and abrupt with her. But it wasn't until he was riding his motorcycle and got hit by a car. And it wasn't until this happened that she said his personality changed. And so instead of just being short-tempered, he was also physically violent towards her. And she didn't say that he beat the kids, but she said that he did have, I was super impatient with the kids. But with her, he also had an increased sex drive, wanting it a couple times a day.
Yeah.
And she had enough of this and divorced him in 1980.
But, I've listened to several, and I've watched several documentaries. She's still very kind towards him when she's talking about him, which surprised me.
Well, she might be doing that for the kids' sake, too. I mean...
True. I mean...
Can you imagine how hard it is? How hard it must have been for her to hold it together for those kids?
I always feel sorry. I mean, I feel horrible for the victims and the victims' families. But we don't really pay attention to the impact this has to have on the serial killer's children. I really, truly believe that they are absolutely victims in this, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Their entire childhoods are just shattered. Their whole image and identity.
If you listen to BTK's daughter speak out, she had such a hard time with reconciling in her mind the dad that she remembered growing up and the guy that, raped and tortured and killed people. And I mean, I just think her dad gives me nightmares still. Like, I couldn't imagine if I
actually brought that up the other day in a group. I think it was a paranormal group on Facebook. It actually might have been Jim Harold's Facebook group for the campfire, but it might not have been. I'm in so many different groups. We were talking about security systems and all that, and I was like, well, and serial killers, and I was like, well, actually, funny enough, because someone mentioned BTK, I was like, funny enough, BTK is the reason why my sister will not have a professional security system installed.
No.
Because he used to install for ADT.
I know, and like when I was married to my first husband, we got a discount on ADT because the company that he worked for, we got all kinds of perks with other companies because he's a chemist. So, like, if they make
I think
something,
his parent company owned ADT at the time or something.
Actually, I think it was. But I just know we got discounts for all kinds of stuff. Like, we got discounts on Ford, and we got I don't know. We got lots of discounts. One of those discounts was for ADT, and I was like, nope, that's not happening. Yeah. I mean, obviously, Dennis Rader doesn't work for ADT anymore, but I wasn't chancing it.
You never know who does.
So, but, I mean, I don't know. I think maybe his wife just speaks kindly about him because
it's already rough enough on his children.
Oh, yeah. And, Mom's got to protect our kids any way we can. And, I mean, I don't even know how you would talk to your kids about the fact that your ex-husband and their dad is a monster.
I think our mom would have no problem doing that.
Well, our mother did that anyway.
And in the surprise off chance that our mom actually listens to this, sometimes you're a little too blunt. No, she doesn't.
Because she doesn't know how to download.
She doesn't. So before he became, and honestly, he might have been doing this at the same time, and they just never linked it. Right, before he became a serial killer, he was a serial rapist. Way back in the day of classified ads. Yes. So early 80s.
who had ads, and if a woman answered the door and she was home alone, he would rape her. And I don't know how many people. Lots. I want to say in the 50s, maybe.
Yeah. And that's the one they know about is in the 50s. He was dubbed the classified ad rapist.
Fun.
And he operated in Fort Lauderdale, which I will be at next week, Ocala, Miami, and Dade County. I will not be answering any classified ads while I'm in Fort Lauderdale. But if you have any like paranormal spots that I should check out while I'm there, send me an email or hit us up on Instagram. I don't think you'll actually have this out by the time I'm there, but just in case.
I'm hoping. Spring of 1984. May, to be exact.
Yes, that's when the first murders actually started taking place that they can link to him.
Not May. March 1984. He picked up Artis Wick, who was a sex worker, and he raped her and beat her, but it no longer had the thrill. Like he didn't get out of it what he needed to get out of it. So he strangled her. 2 months later, May 1984, he was driving on Nebraska Avenue in Tampa, and he picked up Lena Long. And he offered her a ride. She said yes. He controlled the situation with a knife and then took her to a remote location where he raped and strangled her. She was found with her hands tied behind her back and her legs spread 5 feet apart.
Yeah, he liked to pose his victims in very shocking ways. He made no effort to hide or conceal or cover the bodies. He wanted people to see them. He wanted people to be shocked.
So then he had Michelle Sims. She was a 22-year-old sex worker. And he beat and raped her and then cut her throat. And the only way that Sims and Long were tied together was they both had some red nylon fibers that was found on their body, which later tied back to the interior of his car.
Yeah. The red fibers became a very key to this case.
Yeah, because he wasn't hiding anything.
He was not a very sophisticated serial killer.
Elizabeth Lodenbach was found, they think, about 17 days after she was murdered. She was badly decomposed and also laying on her back, and she was fully clothed. Then there was Chanel Williams, who was walking along Tampa Street. He raped her and attempted to strangle her, but then eventually just pulled out his gun and shot her in the neck.
She was the only one that was shot, wasn't she?
I believe so. Then there was Karen Dinsfriend, and Kimberly Hops. And then the crime that actually was part of his undoing. November of 1984. See, like from March to November, he is murdering like...
Yeah.
But he spots Lisa McVeigh, who's 17, and he drags her into his car and forces her to perform oral sex on him. Then he took her to his apartment, raped her repeatedly, showered with her.
She says in interviews, since she was one of the ones who survived, that he actually talked about how he hated women because he had been hurt by women in the past. And she said he would like, one instant he would be like holding her and being very gentle and comforting, and then he'd get angry and, aggressive again.
Right. Actually, Lisa was sitting front row when they executed him. And the night before she was abducted, she was actually going to kill herself and had written a suicide note. But she didn't kill herself. She had been sexually assaulted for years by her grandma's boyfriend, and she was just done. She was just tired of it. So she actually said that she was glad that Bobby Joe Long picked her up instead of some other 17-year-old or just some other girl, because she was able to diffuse the situation, if you will. Like, she was able to...
Yeah, she studied him, and she learned quickly what he wanted from him, what he wanted from her, and what it would take for her to survive the situation.
Yeah, and she used all of the clues from her 24 hours or so with him and took it straight to the police. And she is actually a deputy with that police department today.
Yeah. And she sat front row at his execution, so that her face was one of the last faces that he saw.
Good for her. I mean, she's tough.
Yeah. Actually, she was actually menstruating at the time. She also made sure that she left DNA blood evidence in his car. She was smart.
She went to the bathroom and left fingerprints everywhere. She tried to leave as much evidence that she was there as she could, because she knew that as soon as she got out, what she was going to do.
Since she wasn't murdered, police they were slow to link her abduction to this case.
The murders. Yeah. But man, I know we often say that eyewitness reports are not very accurate, but she gave exact locations of where he picked her up, which was at about a church, where he dropped her off, which was a different church. She was able to give his car, even though she was blindfolded, because she could see the word Magnum lit up on the dashboard, so she knew that it was a Dodge Magnum. She could tell where they were going. She was just so present of mind about everything around her, so that she could save herself, and then by saving herself, save others.
And she did. There was of course other victims after her, but because of her quick thinking and street smarts, who knows how many more he would have went on to kill.
Right.
Though and I tried to actually see why it took so long, but I think it's insane that it took 34 years to execute him.
I know. He just kept getting stay after stay after stay.
I know we have issues with our justice system, and I know there are problems with the death penalty in this country, but that dude was guilty.
I know. See, I don't agree.
And I think
I'm so torn.
I think when you absolutely know, beyond doubts, like in this case, then you should make it swifter.
Yeah, I mean, there are certain people, certain offenders that I absolutely think should be executed. Bundy was one. Golden State Killer, although he won't be executed, is another. There are this guy. There are people who are 100% without a doubt guilty. But then there are so many people in prison that are innocent that I can't fully agree with the death penalty. You know what I'm saying? Is that I worry, because once you execute somebody, they're gone. You could never go back and ask them about other possible victims again. You can't get any more information out of them. You can't overturn it if it turns out that they're really innocent. Dead is dead, and there's no coming back from it.
And we know that we have executed innocent people in this country.
And that bothers me so bad. So, I don't know. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah. On November 6th, so just 3 days after he assaulted Lisa, he killed Virginia Lee Johnson.
And then on November 11th, so he was killing regularly before, but it seems like after, well, actually it seems like he's just escalating the timeline, because Chanel was October 7th, Karen was October 14th, so that's 2 weeks. That's a week. And then you've got Kimberly Hobbs, October 31st. And then just 3 days later was Lisa. 3 days later is Virginia Lee Johnson. 4 days later is Kim Swan.
Yeah.
But then he had a space, like, he was killing every couple of days. And then all of a sudden, nothing until May of 1984, where he assaulted Linda Nuttall. She survived. So it's weird. I don't know what happened during that, during those few months. Because, there's like a 6-month period. Did he go to prison for something?
We mentioned earlier that he was not a very sophisticated serial killer. He left lots of evidence behind. As a result, he was wanted by several different jurisdictions by early 1984 that had forensic evidence, clothing, carpet fibers, we mentioned the red fibers, semen, similar ligature marks in victims. They knew they had a pattern here, and it was pointing to him. And then in November 16th, he was arrested for the sexual battery and kidnapping of Lisa. And when he was arrested, he consented to questioning. And this is really when the case breaks open.
They got a confession from him for Lisa. And then they started questioning about the unsolved sexual battery and murders that were open in the area. And he would say, I'd rather not talk about that. And then they just kept asking him. And then they started handing him pictures of the murder victims. And that's when he said, wow, the complexion of things sure have changed. I think I need an attorney. Now, no attorney was provided him, which is not cool. But eventually he confessed to all 8 murders in the Hillsborough County area and 1 murder in the Pasco County. And it was the red fibers from his car that linked him to most of the victims. When he went to trial, he actually took a plea bargain for 8 of the murders and abductions and for the rape of Lisa McVeigh. And he pleaded guilty on September 24th, 1985 to all the crimes and got 26 life sentences without the possibility of parole. And 24 concurrent and 2 to run consecutively for the first 24, and 7 life sentences with the possibility of parole after 25 years. So the state retained the option that they were going to seek the death penalty for the murder of Michelle Sims. And in July 1986, the penalty phase was held in Tampa. It lasted only 1 week, and he received death. He was to die by electric chair.
But, of course, Florida got rid of the electric chair, and he ended up with lethal injection.
Right. Which I think the electric chair just seems so barbaric.
It is.
I mean, there were so many cases of it like malfunctioning that it's just terrifying.
I mean, we could go back to the guillotine. That's
Well,
really barbaric.
that's true. I guess, is there any way to kill somebody that's not barbaric?
Probably not. I mean, we try to make it as clean and sanitary as possible for execution purposes, but it's still, we're still killing somebody. It's always going to be a messy and questionable affair.
I guess. So on May the, 23rd, that he died?
Yes.
Yeah, May 23rd.
2019.
So just a few weeks ago. He died by lethal injection, and Lisa was sitting front row to watch it. I mean, kudos to her.
Yeah. His last appeal was actually, he was trying to say that, his lawyers also was trying to say that, traumatic brain injury and, temporal lobe epilepsy were the contributing factors to him being a serial killer, basically.
Well, I mean, it probably had something to do with it, but how many serial killers do we know
that have brain
had
injuries?
head injuries?
Yeah. But how many people do we know that have head injuries that are not serial killers?
Well, that's true. Almost every football player.
The Supreme Court, and I don't know which justice wrote this opinion. I could probably look it up, but I don't have it in my notes. Said that none of the scientific advances at the issue established that traumatic brain injury or temporal lobe epilepsy is the sole cause of offenses, such as those that Long committed against the victims in this case. Nor do they negate the sentencing court's findings that the evidence is inconsistent with Long's claim that he could not control his behavior. In light of the evidence that would be available in any resentencing proceedings, including evidence establishing some of the weightiest aggravators in Florida's capital sentencing scheme, the alleged newly discovered evidence is not of such a nature that it would probably yield a less severe sentence in a new penalty phase.
Damn.
Yeah. So they pretty squared that away, at least for the time being, that there is not enough evidence to say that either of those two issues contribute to being a serial killer. And of course, that may change at some point in time as we advance in our knowledge of traumatic brain injury. We still have so much to learn.
And if you were one of those people who are listening and you but you're interested in what people's final meals were, he had a roast beef bacon sandwich. Maybe it was roast beef and bacon. I'm assuming it was on a sandwich. French fries and a soda.
And he gave no final words.
No final words.
Of course, I mean, what could you say? You walk in there.
I mean,
and you see one of your victims sitting front row. She is the one who is directly responsible for seeing you get strapped down to that table. Because it was her courage that got you caught. Finally. I mean, how are you going to respond? How are you going to say anything?
Honestly, it's probably best that he didn't say anything, but
Yeah, he could try to be like, oh, I'm sorry, blah, 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 but At that point in time, it's a little too late.
Yeah, it seems like most of them go one or two routes. Either the I'm so sorry or doubling down on why they did what they did. So, I mean, I guess it was best for him that he just didn't say anything and just took it.
So he was 65 years old when he finally got put to death. And all of this happened. Like, all of these murders happened when I was a baby. I mean, think about that.
I know. I was 10. Well, I was 10 when he was sentenced.
I mean, I was, what? I was like, what, 2 when this all happened? 1 to 2?
He killed his first, yeah, when he killed his first victim, yeah. Although also in Florida, like, yeah, just a timeline thing, that all of these murders happened. He was sentenced to death, and then just a couple years later, like maybe 2 years later, was when Bundy was executed. So you know he has to be thinking about that because he's sitting on death row. And he sees a very public execution happen, knowing that he's not next, but knowing that he will face that same thing.
What year was he sentenced in again?
I thought it was 1986.
So like 3 years later, Bundy was executed.
Yeah. I don't know why. I always think that I was 12. It's because of the classroom I was sitting in when we were talking about it in class, and I can completely visualize this classroom. But we used this classroom for 2 years, like, because we changed classes. When I was 12, it was my homeroom. When I was 13, we just had a class in there.
We went to a very small grade school.
Yeah, we went to a very tiny grade school. And so in my head, I keep thinking I was 12 because I remember the conversation happening in this room. But it happened in this room, but it just happened in a particular class, not during my homeroom. Not that it matters, but, well, do we have a stupid criminal?
We do. Oh, actually, I'm getting ready to I'll probably post this on our Instagram. But somebody just sent me a message, a news article. Apparently, they have made an arrest in the case of those transgender women who've been murdered in Dallas. They finally made an arrest. Awesome. 33-year-old Kendrell LeVar Lyles. He's been charged with 3 counts of murder. So that's awesome that they have caught him.
That is very, very good.
So, okay, now I'll get to the stupid criminal. Okay, so in case you don't know, Kentucky does have some Amish and Mennonite communities.
We do. I'm not as big as Pennsylvania, but we do. Like, actually, the next county over from me has lots of Amish. And I took a picture. We were on our way to on a side note, we were on our way to a band competition, and there was a horse and buggy parked in the gas lane.
I think I was with you.
At the gas station, and it cracked me up. I was like, I wonder what kind of octane that horse takes.
Yeah. Well, this happened in Smith Grove, Kentucky, and I think that the name of the road is Hydropondsville Road. Very unusual name. Anyway, there was a collision between a car and a horse-drawn carriage. And when police arrived at the scene, they discovered that Reuben Yoder, who was driving the carriage, was drunk off his wagon.
Drunk off his wagon?
He was drunk. He was way drunk. Neither Yoder nor his 8 passengers were injured, and no one in the car was injured. The horse, of course, was not injured either, thankfully. The Smith Grove police chief actually wanted to make sure that was pointed out in the article that the horse was fine.
Yeah, that was actually when I first heard this story, and they were like, okay, none of the 8 passengers were hurt, and the people in the car was fine. And I was like, what about the horse?
Yeah. The police chief wanted to make sure that everyone knew that the horse was fine. But Mr. Yoder was arrested for operating a non-motor vehicle under the influence, wanton endangerment, and criminal mischief. No, I know it's a big joke, and I don't know if it happens in other places, but it's a big joke that you can't get arrested for, driving under the influence if your horse is sober, because your horse can find the way home. But that's not true, y'all. You got to be sober when you're operating your horse and buggy.
Well, I'm scared of horses, so I will not be operating a horse and buggy.
No, I will probably not either, because horses are. I'm not terrified of horses, but they're really big, and we like to joke that we run a mini farm. We like miniature animals. Miniature goats, miniature chickens. We like things on the small side. Miniature dogs. Little tiny rabbits. We like little.
When I got Sophie and I was telling Heather every week how much she weighed, Heather was like, oh my God.
Listen, I was not freaked out about the fact that my sister got a pit bull. I was freaked out by the fact that my sister got a big dog. Yeah. But I'm totally smitten with Sophie. She's a sweetheart. She's just really big.
Every night.
She's like the size of a horse.
Shh, don't say things like that. She can hear you, and you'll hurt her feelings.
She's big girl. She's just really, she's big.
Well, she's really not. She's only like 50 pounds.
Holly, my biggest dog weighs 17 pounds.
I mean, and she's not even full grown yet because she's still really young.
I'm pretty sure that your dog weighs more than some of my goats.
Probably. Well, people, don't drive drunk, even if it is a horse and buggy.
Don't take out ads in classifieds.
Yeah, or Craigslist. Just be very careful.
Is classifieds even still a thing? I mean, like classified personals.
I don't know.
I think it's all like dating apps now.
Yeah. Oh,
but you still have to be careful when you're buying things off of like Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace and stuff, because we have had instances of people getting murdered that way, and serial killers operating that way.
Like, go to a well-lit, busy area like a Walmart parking lot or the police station parking lot, or just a place where you're not alone.
Take someone with you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not just saying that because mainly girls listen. I mean, I would be saying that for a guy too. I mean, you just don't know. People are crazy these days. Protect yourself.
Yeah.
Listen to our YouTube channel. Heather is doing really fun paranormal stories.
And I actually, I just posted a new video, and I think I'm going to make it a series, like a continuing series. I'm calling it Haunted Thrifting, because if you know me, you know I love thrift stores and really crowded antique stores, and I love that. So this video, I take you around to one of my favorite stores, and I show you some interesting things, and I hunt for haunted objects, and then I bring you back to my house, and I show you some of my favorite finds from previous excursions. Fun. I think it's fun. I might actually get Holly in on this one because she likes thrift stores with me too. So
I do, yeah. If you are in the market for fun shirts, you can always check out my Etsy shop, Cat Hair Glitter. There's no and. Heather sent me a very hysteric message last week thinking that my shop had like changed to something that like odd because she was typing and. It's not. It's just Cat Hair Glitter.
Yeah.
I will put a link in the show notes.
She is working on, they're still in like the tweaking phase. They're not in production yet. Socks.
Yes. I mean, like I have a pair on that I made and they are really cute. They're like pit bulls and cats. But I liked, before I list anything in my shop, I like to make it, wash it several times, wear it around, or like in the case of, I'm also still in the production like phase of making walls like art.
Yeah. Unlike a lot of shops on Etsy, she doesn't outsource the production.
No, I do everything myself. So that means that, like I've got several things going on at once usually, and I just like to test it out for a while before I list anything because I don't like to be surprised. Because I mean, I literally list things that either I would wear or my kids would wear. Like we would literally wear everything in our shop, and I don't normally list anything that we wouldn't. At least one of us, of the three of us.
I'm thinking that I really need some ghosty socks like what you made for Abby to try out. And if she makes me a pair, I will post them online because I'm not afraid of you all seeing my feet. But anyway, okay. Thanks for listening.
Well, and I know you think the socks are cute, but my favorite thing that I made this week was the Bad Taste in Men, Good Taste in Dogs shirt.
Yeah, but do you really have good taste in dogs? Inigo's grumpy.
Sophie thinks that I have great taste in dogs.
You do. You have the best taste in dogs. They're all sweet.
Anyway, thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye. We'll see you next week.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.